Hey guys, good morning. I got caught up in the chat here. I love chatting with you guys. It's a lot of fun. And I didn't even realize it was already 7:30, ready to start the show this morning. So, I've got a couple of really crazy shows for today and tomorrow. So, check out tomorrow's show. You're going to want to set your reminder for that show just in case. But I guess we'll just begin. Wow, I'm kind of blown away right now. I pretty much finished up the decode on the faculty already, put together my show notes this morning, and captured all the clips that I'm going to use for tomorrow's show. And I was just blown away, is all I can really say. So you have to see tomorrow's show because it's all about a character named Casey who figures out that the fiction that's in movies and television is actually the truth about a demonic alien invasion that seeks to merge their dark, unclean spirit with humanity. This was back in 1998, and thanks for the subscriber who had me look at that film. I had never seen that film before. It was during a period of my life where I was a young father raising a family just out of college, and we just simply didn't watch those kinds of movies back then. We're more into going to church, and you know how it is when you have young children and you're in a different phase of your life. You don't watch a lot of those kinds of movies because you want to protect your children. You want to be in a good state of mind. And so this one just slipped through the cracks. Never saw the movie. And one of you are like, you have to see this movie. And so that will be tomorrow's show. But today's show, we're going to get into the Queen. Now, several months ago, during a renovation at Notre Dame, basically they found a lead coffin underground in a secret chamber. Now, we had researched lead coffins, and we had found that Princess Diana, along with most of the royal family, including Queen Elizabeth, were all buried in lead coffins. So we dug a little bit deeper, and we found out that vampires were also buried in lead coffins. Now, why is that the case? Well, according to ancient lore, it was to trap the demon inside of the coffin. And we'll get into all that a little bit later in the show. But first, I wanted to do a follow-up on the show that we did about the sculpture of the man. Let's go back to this. This is from yesterday's show. This sculpture here you see on your screen of a man with planes flying into him. Here it is right here. And you'll remember that this particular sculpture was titled Tar Baby versus Saint Sebastian. Now, who was Saint Sebastian? Well, he was shot all over his body with arrows, but he survived. Now, this is weird because this artist was in one of the towers and died in the tower. Apparently, this piece of his art survived somehow. Maybe it was removed before, but he died in this tower. Well, here's what we found. Here's what I'm doing to follow up on this particular story. Hope you're sitting down for this one. Because this very same Saint Sebastian is looked to and was looked to as the patron saint that people prayed to for healing from coronavirus. This was 19 years after Blind 11. Let's read this. Saint Sebastian is considered the protector against the plague, a nasty, contagious illness that wiped out millions of lives in Europe during the Middle Ages. In recent weeks, the outbreak of the VID-19 disease has led millions of people around the world to worry about their health. For centuries, Catholics have been counting on an early Christian martyr to protect them from an infectious disease. Saint Sebastian is considered the protector against the plague, a nasty, contagious illness that wiped out millions of lives in Europe during the Middle Ages. It was during the 7th century in particular. Believers started to address their prayers towards Saint Sebastian during a violent outbreak of plague in Pavia. Here's a list of the most poignant portraits of the plague protector. So they've got these images of him shot all over with arrows. Now, this is significant because yesterday we just decoded the human heart. And we compared, and they have compared Saint Sebastian to Apollo. They have compared him. Apollo is very closely linked to Cupid. Cupid possesses the heart with an arrow to make people fall in love. The serpent in the chest, the arrow in the chest, is metaphor for spirit possession. And here they're praying to Saint Sebastian instead of the true healer. Unbelievable. Here are all the images of Saint Sebastian. Now, the LGBT community, of course, has picked this up as one of their symbols. We read that in the Wikipedia article. As someone being stuck in the closet, afraid to come out, and lusting over these pictures of Saint Sebastian. So I wanted to do a follow-up on that to connect the dots for you and show you how all of this comes full circle. It's all connected in the spiritual realm. So now let's get started on this decode with Queen Elizabeth and this lead coffin thing. So here's the story from several months ago as we switch gears here back to Notre Dame and this lead coffin discovery. Many of you will remember this decode that we did on this. We were already making the connection to vampires, and they still have not opened this thing yet. They're like waiting. They drilled a hole in it and they stuck a camera in there, realized that the lining was lead. Let's zoom this up a little bit. But what is inside of this is the question. Now, they're saying that only nobility are the ones that had enough money to have themselves placed in a lead coffin. But we're also going to examine some of the vampiric roots of lead coffins. Now, why were they digging under Notre Dame Cathedral? Well, you'll remember there was a fire. And remember, the spire fell down. And we captured that and recorded that. And we compared it to the scene in the animated film I, Pet Go 2, in which a spire also caught fire and fell over. We, in fact, put those videos side by side and found that they were almost an exact match. How can this be? How can an animated film from 2012 have events that had not happened yet? That is the question. Now, the world gets really weird at this point. Here's the sarcophagus. World is waiting for the big reveal. Human-shaped lead sarcophagus found beneath the floor of the fire-ravaged Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris has generated much speculation about its contents. So basically what they were doing here is they were doing renovations, and for some reason they decided to dig down under the ground. Now this begs the question, doesn't it? This begs the question, was the fire intentional so that they could dig down into the ground to find something that maybe they had located with ground penetrating radar, and they needed a cover story to get in here and retrieve this thing without attracting too much attention? It begs the question, doesn't it? Because look how deep this thing is. It's probably about 3 feet underneath all these huge blocks that really didn't need to be moved to renovate the cathedral. This looks like pretty solid stone here. Why would they need to remove all this? And this stone being so thick, was there even any damage to it? That, what was the reason why it needed to be removed is the question. So it says it was buried 3.3 feet. Of course it's 3.3 feet, right? Found the sarcophagus, and they still have not opened it yet. So some of the people in this story even say that the reason, or they're saying not to open it. They're telling people not to open it. Let me find that part here. Why? Because they're saying that evil spirits could be unleashed. Should the coffin be opened? Many on social media are calling for the coffin to remain unopened, proposing, often in jest, that evil forces might be unleashed if the sanctity of the dead is disturbed. Now, what are they really talking about here? And are these fears unfounded, or are they legitimate? Well, according to vampire legend, many were buried inside of lead coffins. Here's one particular story from Lancashire, or it was actually in Peru, but it was a Lancashire vampire. Let's read this, because the vampires were trapped in these lead coffins, the undead they call them, to prevent them from escaping. One grave in the local cemetery in Pisco, a fishing town in South Peru, has a strange legend behind it. The grave holds the remains of Sarah Roberts, a Lancashire woman who died in 1913 and is reputed to be one of the brides of Dracula. According to the locals, Sarah was condemned as a witch and a vampire by officials from Blackburn, Lancashire in June of 1913. She was flung alive into her lead-lined coffin, but before the lid was shut, she cursed her judges and swore vengeance, an event that was to occur rather curiously in 1993. Fearful of the threats, Sarah was forbidden burial in any of the local graveyards, leaving her husband was left to wander the world until Pisco eventually took her. After this, he disappeared mysteriously, never to be seen again. In 1993, there was an earthquake in Pisco. Sarah's grave was one of the few to survive the quake intact, all except for the gravestone that cracked. That was enough to give the legend new life. Pregnant women avoided the cemetery for fear that their unborn child would become a vehicle for the vampire spirit. Other braver individuals staked out the standard tools of the vampire hunter just in case Sarah decided to reappear. The supposed bride of Dracula was conspicuous by her absence, probably because she was a simple cotton weaver. Records show that Sarah Roberts was born, bred, and married in Lancashire with no other incident. When her brother-in-law moved to Lima to manage a cotton mill, Sarah and her family visited him, and it was one of those trips that Sarah died. The only thing that was resurrected in 1993 was her peculiar legend, which arose because of the misunderstanding, ignorance, and environmental disaster. As for her grieving husband, his disappearance is no great mystery. He simply returned to Lancashire and opened a grocer's shop. So here's one of many stories of vampires basically interred into these lead coffins. Now, if you're still not seeing any connection to vampires and the royal family, think again. Because King Dracula has now ascended the throne. King Charles is a descendant of the real-life Dracula. Now, if you didn't know this, and we'll cover this more on tomorrow's show, the word akul means a sharp-pointed element. A sharp-pointed element. And so when we do the decode tomorrow on the faculty, which has akul in it as well, you will see the sharp-pointed element repeated. Now, it's interesting because history tries to downplay Dracula, Prince Dracula, and they try to say, oh, you know, he was just a crazy ruler who put the head of his, the people that he conquered onto spikes, and he was feared. It was to keep people out, so he would put the dead on these spikes. Basically, he crucified them. And they try to downplay Dracula's lust for blood and drinking and eating blood. But his very name means a piercing, sharp instrument. You can't get away from that. And there are many other connections as well. But here we are, and King Charles is in fact a descendant of Dracula. Former Prince of Wales is heir to the Vlad Impaler's bloodline. He even has property there. And let's read some of this article here, because you have to ask yourself, is this why the royal family is buried in lead caskets? The royal family has links to several countries across Europe, including Romania. Turns out that King Charles is the descendant of the real-life Dracula, formerly known as Prince Charles, Prince of Wales. Charles III actually owns several properties in Transylvania. He's the heir to the Vlad Impaler's bloodline. The ruthless prince, also known as Vlad Tepes and Vlad III Dracula, is known for his cruelty toward his enemies and impaling them on stakes. He lived in the 15th century. He is said to have inspired Bram Stoker for his famous Count Dracula. In 1462, following a battle, Vlad left a field filled with thousands of impaled victims. More than 530 years later, in 1998, King Charles found out about his links to the Romanian ruler. He is, in fact, the great-grandson, 16 times removed, through the consort of George V, Queen Mary. Genealogical tree in the British Chronicles, written by David Hughes, supports this claim. It says Prince Charles very fond of Romania, especially of the Transylvania region. It was after this first visit to Transylvania in 1998 that he found out about the connection to Vlad the Impaler, a connection that he is apparently very proud of. Through the Prince of Wales Foundation, Prince Charles has done plenty of charity work in Transylvania, especially in the fields of sustainable development. Now, it'd be interesting to find out where his property is. Did he buy Dracula's castle? Like, you have to ask yourself. I don't know the answer to that, but this is really, really weird. So, what is this here? This might be one of the properties. It doesn't say. There's the white horse of Revelation. Apollo's horse. King Charles now owns several properties in the Romanian region, in Viscri, in the Zalunuli Valley, in Malencrov, and in Breb. These villages have now become popular with tourists. Okay, so these are where the places are. I'm going to look those up after we get off the show today and find them, and I'll link all of this in the pinned comment for you guys in case you want to do additional research. So this is very interesting. I'll plot these in Google Earth and see if I find any weird alignments, or if I find anything in these little, in the history of some of these towns that could point to more information. But this now has become front and center on the world stage as Queen Elizabeth has supposedly passed away, put into a lead casket, and King Charles is now basically the king of the world, the king of the North. Now, the blood-sucking jokes are already starting. In case you were still not convinced, everybody knows this. This man from Michigan is preparing blood-sucking lamprey pie for the king. Let's read this. Lamprey pie, Michigan man prepares to ship invasive blood-sucking fish to England for the king's coronation. Now, we'll probably have to decode that coronation. I'm sure there'll be more clues. One man's poison is another man's meat or pie. Michiganders despise the invasive lamprey fish, but will ship some to England for the new king's pie. This is just weird. The death of the English monarch portends the crowning of another, and that means giving King Charles III the gift of a pie filled with Michigan flavor. An invasive species, lampreys have decimated game species in the Great Lakes. They have been the fishing industry's public enemy number one for more than a century. Now, this is probably a big nothing story, but the fact is they're comparing basically King Charles to these blood-sucking lamprey fish. That's the joke here. Okay? So it's weird. Now, a couple of you asked me to look at the Queen's funeral procession. I'm like, Casey, you've got to look at the Queen's funeral procession. Possession, I said. Freudian slip there instead of precession. And it appears as though many of you recognized all of the purple. And you remembered that we talked about Prince and the Purple Rain and the connection to the Queen. A few days prior to this, that she had died exactly 333 weeks after Prince did. Look at this. Purple, I guess this is like an announcement, a purple announcement for the route of the actual procession, all in purple. You got purple casket draped in purple. You've got purple pillow on top of the casket as well. Now I understand that purple is the color of royalty, but wow, they went all out. Now what does purple really represent? Now purple is in the Bible. Okay, it was used as a color by the ancient Israelites. I think even there was some purple in the tabernacle. But to these people, purple represents the mixing of the blue bloods and the red bloods. Because when you mix red and blue, you get purple. So, things are not what they seem in the world, are they? Let's go into the chat here. Now, in case you missed the opening of the show, we tomorrow will be going over the 1998 film called The Faculty. And I just showed you how the root word ACUL or acul means a sharp pointed instrument. The movie The Faculty is about a boy named Casey, played by Elijah Wood, who believes that the fiction in movies is really the truth. And he uncovers a plot of aliens to mix their unclean blue blood spirit with humanity. You can't make this up. Now, let's go into the chat here. Unbelievable. Now, they mock Casey, and they tell him that this is your blood right, or your birthright. So I don't know what all this means. I haven't figured it out yet. Definitely something manifesting spiritually. So, wow. All right. Let's get into the chat here. Watcher graduated in 1998. Owl in Hebrew, Pierce Mark. This is essential growth. Okay. Good morning, everybody. They're the purple people eaters. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in Yah. Psalm 4:5. Okay. All in the family. Play on words there. Yes, they put a purple robe on Jesus, and that was to mock him. So, Jesus came to save the Jews and the Gentiles. That's what he said in his own words. Basically, he provided a way that despite the blood running through our veins, despite our lineage, when I say that, I'm talking about when God was talking to Cain and he said, sin is crouching at the door. Why would he say that to him? He said, if you choose good, then you'll be okay. I believe he said that to Cain because he knew Cain was of a different bloodline. This is why he rejected his offering. And he chose instead to accept Abel's offering because Abel was of the pure bloodline. And God would continue to accept Abel's bloodline's offering, which actually transferred to Seth, the second born son of Adam. That's a word sandwich. Second born son of Adam. And his bloodline would be the ones to continue to offer the lamb as the sacrifice. Do you see how this works now? Cain's and his bloodline sacrifice was always rejected throughout the rest of history. The Canaanites were not required to offer a sacrifice. Only the Israelites who sacrificed the lamb, just like Abel did. It's so easy. It's like the word is not confusing. It's the people that have hidden the truth from us. But then Jesus came and he fixed all that. He said, I come for the Jews and the Gentiles. He was talking about the two bloodlines. But you have to choose him. And then it doesn't matter what kind of blood you have running through your veins. Okay? So that's how all of this works. And so, what were those two bloodlines? Red and blue. Mixed together is purple. And this is how they were mocking Jesus. They put a purple robe on him to mock him. So, what else do we have here? King of Queens intro with Corona Park turned purple. Now, one of you asked me to look at the very first episode. I might as well cover this now. Kind of switching gears here. The very first episode of the TV series from the 1966 called Batman. It starred Adam West. And you're not going to believe this. It opens with the World's Fair in Corona Park, Queens. And in the episode, it's called High Diddle Fiddle or something like that. The Riddler stars in the episode, and he pierces Robin with a syringe blow dart. This is after Batman walks into a bar, and there's a dragon at the bar. The bar is made out of a huge dragon. And then Batman gets slipped a drink by a woman named Molly. He gets slipped a Molly by a woman named Molly that works for the Riddler. Batman passes out. He's all incapacitated, but he runs to the Batmobile to try and save Robin, who the Riddler has now kidnapped. So here we go again with syringes, the Trilon, the Perisphere, the Dragon, the World's Fair. Everything we've been talking about, right, you guys? In the very first episode, Season 1, Episode 1 of Batman, starring Adam West. Now, a little boy on a jet plane asked Trump if he was Batman. And he said, I am. Yes, Chris. So, the world is not what it seems, is it? These are spiritual manifestations. Batman is Trump. Robin is Robinetti. Joe Robinetti Biden. Boy Wonder. Now, notice the opposites, because in Batman and Robin, the original series of 1966, Batman was kind of the dumb one, wasn't he? Robin was the one figuring out the riddles all the time. He was the smart one. Well, now we have the opposite. We have Robin as the dumb one, and Batman is the smart one. It flip-flopped, didn't it? Everyone talks about how smart, how Trump plays 5D chess. He's so smart. He can figure anything out. You see how this works? Now, what else is going on here? Let's go in the chat here. Batman and Robin. Now, if you think I'm making all this up, just go look at Trump Tower and look at the top of Trump Tower. And it looks like a bat boomerang. Literally. And it's next to the other building, which is called the Superman building. Let's go into Google Earth. Let's end the show with this, because we don't go into Google Earth enough. Google Earth tells the whole story. Batman versus Superman. Which, of course, was in the film I Am Legend. Batman versus Superman was on a billboard. That's because in that 2007 film, I think I Am Legend was 2007, they already knew that whatever this cure was that they were going to come up with was going to start the zombie apocalypse, which is going to happen is happening right now, believe it or not, with all these blood issues happening so far. Let's go find Batman versus Superman. Okay, that's weird. You type in Trump Tower and it takes you somewhere else in the world. Let's see where it goes just for giggles, right? Whoa, that's creepy. So all I did was type in Trump Tower and it took us to the Hagia Sophia Mosque. Are you kidding me? Whoa. Now some people had petitioned Trump to not allow the Hagia Sophia Mosque to be turned into a mosque. They wanted to keep it a Greek Orthodox church, and it was actually turned into a mosque. So this is weird. Anyway, let's go back to New York City here. Unbelievable. That was weird. Right? Let's go back to Central Park here. Get back on track. Going down rabbit holes. Okay, so here is the swamp. Train the swamp. Central Park was actually a swamp originally, if you didn't know that. And let's go to Trump Tower and let's look at Batman versus Superman. Now, when we found this one, I couldn't believe it. Both of these arrows point to Wardenclyffe Tower. You go into Google Earth. Let's turn off the streets here so we don't mess this up. Streets, roads. Okay, got that. Now, if you take and see, these are arrows. Let's flip this around here so you get your orientation. Got this in the 3D view. So you take these arrows, which are definitely pointing somewhere. All right. This is Trump Tower here, and this is the IBM building. This is Superman, and this is Batman. Batman versus Superman. Now, if you don't know what this is about, IBM made these, what are they called? These punch cards to identify people's bloodlines for the Yahtzees in World War II. Are you awake yet? Are you starting to see what's really happening here? IBM was criticized because they helped the Yahtzees by printing off punch cards to identify people's bloodlines. So here we have another bloodline thing going on here. Here's Batman and his bat boomerang, right? And the bat plane kind of looks like this too. And then you have IBM building. When you draw a line from like where these point, it points directly to Wardenclyffe Tower. There's the red line right there. I have it mapped out. Let's follow it along here. Let's go across the cityscape here, all the way to Long Island, Wardenclyffe Tower, where Tesla made free energy, we think. Probably made a time machine, a couple other things, and probably is the one behind all of these Hollywood films manifesting a reality that hadn't happened yet, is what I believe. Some kind of foreknowledge of things that had not happened yet. So here we go. We're on Long Island now. Just probably 20, 30 miles away. And let's go to Wardenclyffe Tower, which just so happens to be right next door, within a mile of Brookhaven National Laboratory, who was smashing gold particles with lasers. What could they possibly have been doing over there? And what does that have to do with Tesla? I'll show you Brookhaven in proximity to Wardenclyffe Tower. Well, here's Wardenclyffe Tower here. Obviously, it's not there anymore. It's defunct. It was torn down. There's some homes around here. Here's Wardenclyffe Tower, the site it was on. And of course, Trump's uncle stole the papers, but I believe all these people knew each other. This is why Tesla's tower, there's the footprint of it, was so close to Brookhaven, because it was all about smashing particles. It was all about laser physics. It was all about electromagnetics. And it was a very small engineering world back then. So, of course, Tesla knew John Trump. Of course he did. Okay? And they probably worked together right over here. Brookhaven National Laboratories, which is literally a couple hundred yards. Let's zoom out so we can see it. There it is right there. It's within a stone's throw. There's the particle accelerator right there. Why are these two things so close together? Is it just an accident that this is next to Wardenclyffe Tower? Of course it's not an accident. Tesla and his technology is being used at Brookhaven. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. There it is right there, Brookhaven National Laboratories. So, thought I would show you guys that, get you caught up to speed on that. I know it's a pretty big rabbit hole, but it has to be, the story has to be told. Uh-oh. Can't see. Uh-oh. Unbelievable. Maybe the, let's see. Let's look at that again. Which part did it cut out at? You guys can let me know. Oh, screen's not locked. Okay. Which part did it cut out at? And I'll finish it up. It's probably because I have it in 3D. You missed everything? Oh, go. Okay, I know what's going on. Let me fix it for you guys. Sorry. Okay, here's what we have to do. We have to go like this. I have to go like this. Sorry, guys. Okay. Let's try that again. Now you can see. Let's make sure. I'll do it one more time. Sorry about that. Fortunately, that was only 10 minutes. So I will redo it. Okay, let's go back. And when I do screen share, I always forget. So this is Long Island. Let's go back. Let's go back to Central Park. Okay. See if I can repeat exactly what I said. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is Central Park, and we outline Central Park. What you have is this giant syringe. Okay, we outline the buildings. There you see the plunger of the syringe. Zoom it up a little bit. There's the plunger of the syringe. There is Central Park. This is the swamp. Drain the swamp. And this points to the One World Trade Freedom Tower, which is a needle. Right here. So you see the syringe. Okay, now let's go down and look at Batman versus Superman. Featured in the film I Am Legend. Let's go down here. Here are the buildings. This is the IBM building. Here's the Superman building that you see here in the center of your screen. They made punch cards for the Yahtzees to identify bloodlines. Next to Batman in the Bat plane, as well as the Bat boomerang. This is Trump Tower. This is the IBM building. There are twin buildings representing the twin spirits. But the Superman spirit is the serpent in the chest. It's the S on the chest. It's the false light, the Apollo light. Batman is the dark spirit. The bat, the serpent in the chest. And these buildings point to Wardenclyffe Tower. They're orientated to point directly to Wardenclyffe Tower, following that red line that you see at the top of your screen. All I did was draw the red line and found the center of where these two arrows are pointing. The two arrows of the tops of the buildings represent a fast forward symbol, back to the future, fast forward, FF, Fox 66, you name it, Apollo is all over this. 66th floor penthouse of Trump Tower is where he has all his Apollo symbolism. Here we follow the red line pointing all the way across Long Island, probably 20-30 miles away. And this one's worth repeating because this is huge. And I just turned off the 3D so that hopefully I don't get stuck here. 20-30 miles away, and we go to the Wardenclyffe Tower site. This is where the arrows point. Fast forward. This is why I always tell you guys, I believe that Tesla developed some kind of looking glass to see into the future. But basically it was demonic, like a demonic, what do you call it? Foreshadowing, because they know the plan too. They know God's plan. They know what their plan is going to be. And they simply tell their trusted servants so that they can manifest their plan. Tesla was consumed with the element copper, wasn't he? Yes, he was. Remember the copper egg experiment that he did? Here is Wardenclyffe Tower, the site of Wardenclyffe. Let's go down here so you can see it. This is on Long Island, about 30 miles away from the towers that pointed to it. John and Tesla knew each other. John Trump and Tesla knew each other. They had to have. This was a very small world back then. Not many engineers, electrical engineers working on this stuff. They're all in a club together. Here's Wardenclyffe Tower. And just yards away, within a stone's throw, is Brookhaven. And that's because the technology used at Brookhaven, most likely, is technology from Tesla. There's the particle accelerator. Wait, let me find it. Okay, there we are, looking out toward the particle accelerators of Brookhaven National Labs. Let's come over here to it. Here they are right here. There's one big one there. What is the zip code of Brookhaven? You ready for this? And this is where we'll end the show. Zip code of Brookhaven. Before the Slim Towers were ever built, the zip code is 11973. Encoding both the opening date of the towers, which was 1973, and the date that they would fall on blind 11. This is why I tell people I believe whatever technology is hidden in here had something to do with how the towers fell. Let's go back into the chat. Wow. All right. Now, how do I know all this stuff? Well, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just a servant of the Holy Spirit. And he discloses these things to people who care, who want to know the truth, who don't believe the lie. So, let's go into the chat here. Sorry about that hiccup with the screen share. I can edit that out later. What happens though when I edit out the videos, when I edit these videos, it erases the chat. And so people really need to see the chat too, to see people's reaction to the information being presented. Because if you don't see the reaction, you don't really know, you know, I don't know. We live in a society now where people need to see other people's reaction to believe things, right? So I'll probably just not edit that out so that everyone can see the chat. All right, let's go in here. Love you guys too. There's too many synchronicities to deny this, isn't there? There's just too many. So Dusk says just leave it. Yeah, I'll just leave it. It was only like 5 minutes, right? But it was weird how when we typed in Trump Tower, you guys didn't see that part, but I went into Google Earth and I typed in Trump Tower. Here, let's try it again. Let's see if it repeats it so you guys can see this, because you really need to see this part as well. Okay, watch this. That part I didn't repeat. Let's zoom this out. Let's start over. Now you would think if you typed in Trump Tower, it would take you to Trump Tower, right? But it doesn't do that. At least it didn't do it the first time I tried it. Let's reorientate the false Earth model here. One of you postulated that, remember we covered the Mobius strip yesterday? One of you were like, man, I wonder if that explained, the Mobius strip explains how the North and South pole stars are mirrors of one another. Because on the Mobius strip, basically, you can send an object along the strip, and when it returns the other side, it returns in a mirror. I was like, well, that's possible. Okay, let's try this again. Trump Tower. So I just typed in Trump Tower. And look, it takes us to the Hagia Sophia Mosque, which is what we covered. Now, I don't know how. Oh, look at this. There's a Trump Tower. Where is this? What? There's the Hagia Sophia. There's a Trump Tower over here? Wait a minute. There's 2 Trump Towers. Let's go over here. Whoa. Gotta look at this real quick before we end the show. Cafe Nero? Trump. What? Everybody's been saying he's Nero. Look at this. Cafe Nero in Trump Towers. This is just a search. Trump. Cafe Nero Trump Tower. Cafe Nero next to Trump Tower. Okay, we gotta see this. Oh, I guess he has a tower over here. Sisley Trump Tower. Cafe Nero. Well, people have said he's Nero, so. Sisley Trump Tower. Let's go down to the street view. That might be his building. It says Trump Tower. Go on the street view. Is there a street view here? Let's go. Let's look up at this tower here. Whoa, look at that. That's crazy. Guess that is his building. He's got buildings all over the world. Migros. Okay. Well, I don't know if this is his or not, but that's what it says. That's the label on Google Earth. And this is in the country of, I think this is Turkey. Where's this? Yeah, I guess this is Turkey. Because there's the Hagia Sophia right there. Now there's another one over here. It's another Trump Tower. Across the way. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? When it zoomed in here. Now it's gone. Let's type it in again here. Is it over here? I can't find it now. But remember, there was another one we saw to the left. I should have, or to the right. I should have probably found that one first before we zoomed out. Now it's disappeared. Zoom out a little bit more. Oh, weird. Oh, is that it? Nope. All right, you guys. Well, I'll research this a little bit more, but I wanted to show you that. That's weird. All right, let's go back into the chat here. Okay. A bad dawn. Yes. Istanbul. Type it in again. Let's try it again. There was another one over there. Here, let's just do this. Zoom out. Let's start over. Okay. Trump Tower. Mibbit. Where'd it go? Goes. Huh. That's weird. Let's try this. It's like it erased it or something. Pull this down. Trump Towers. Vodafone. Let's try this one. Nope. Try this one. Nope, they're all the same. Oh, page 2. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, I think that's pretty much it. We're in the rabbit hole now. I'll mess you guys up. Let's go back into the chat here. On the Caspian Sea, says Tanya. All right, you guys. I love each and every one of you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care and be safe.